retention the game had. We saw the graph. The first season had an insane retention 3 months after the league started. It was because there was an endgame. If you didn't have an endgame, that resection, that retention wouldn't have been like that, in my opinion. So guys, I have this video here from Snoo that is called, was it a mistake for GGG to scrap together an endgame for early access launch? And I want to watch this video because that is a topic that I like, because I do think that it was a good decision for them to have some kind of endgame, but at the same time, maybe it was a mistake and focusing on the campaign was a play. But I think that people would have complained that it's not enough to do in the game if it doesn't have the endgame. So they would have the Diablo 4 problem. So then I go back to saying, yes, it is good that there is an endgame because we can play the game a lot. Yes, the game is incomplete, the campaign is incomplete, there are a lot of issues. But we can play the game for a long time right now because of the endgame they have. If they don't put that endgame in there, there is nothing to do in the game, dude. You complete the campaign and you go away and you drop the game. So I do think it was a nice decision. And also recently I watched a new video and it was an awesome video, so I want to keep watching his videos. And he commented on my video. It was awesome, dude. Thank you, Snoop, for commenting in the video. It was fucking great. So yes, I want to watch it. Dude, over 60% of you are not subscribed. Why are you like this? Just click the sub button, dude. It is quick, it is easy, it is free. You get content, I get a sub win-win situation. Just click the sub button, my dude.
I think people genuinely enjoy PoE if they named it something else. Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes GGG did, first of all, I feel like they acted way too rashly to try and ham-fist an endgame into a game that was totally unfinished, an endgame that had only the very, very beginning workings of it. Like, they probably had, like, I don't even think they said they had the Arbiter fight done. I think they had to rush that, too. To me, it's a little bit silly that we just tack in 4 league mechanics that already exist in PoE 1. Like, not even one new one.
I completely agree with this, and I have told you guys before. I think that mechanics like Breach and Delirium are antithetical to what PoE2 is. Because if PoE2 is supposed to be slower, that I know that it is in the vision they have, in the endgame, they still want you to be fast. Not as fast as PoE 1, but they do want you to be fast. But if it is supposed to be slower, why are you introducing game mechanics that are completely based around being fast? Breach, you have to go fast so the shed keeps opening and doesn't close on you. And Delirium, you have to keep going with the mist, because if you stop, then the mist is going to end and you want to keep going to get the meter up, right? So they are antitheticals. But at the same time, it means that they put them in there because they had to put something in there. And from the mechanics that they had, they decided to put those in because maybe they were the easiest one to implement. And now we are in a weird place, because if those mechanics were not intended to be in PoE2, are they going to take them out eventually? People that already like those mechanics, what are they going to feel if they take them out? Now we are compromised on having to have these mechanics in there. I don't know, dude. I don't know. But I still kind of agree that they needed some kind of endgame. They needed some kind of endgame, because only repeating the campaign over and over again wouldn't have been, the game would have not been well received. The game would have not been well received. Maybe they didn't need the specific mechanics. They could go away with just mapping and pinnacle bosses. I don't know. I don't know. Or choosing better mechanics. I don't know, because I do agree that to me at least, Delirium and Breach are not it for PoE2. Not in the current iteration. Maybe they can change them and adapt them to be PoE2 ready, you know. Yeah, it was a good decision. Most people would have complained if PoE2 early access release without an end game. Yes, I agree completely with that statement, because Diablo 4 released with somewhat of an end game. It was bullshit, but it had an end game in quotes, and people complain about it. Imagine having no end game at all and the game suddenly stops Let's assume that if you didn't release the end game, you released the full campaign. Let's assume that, right? And the game ends at the Act 6, and that is the game. Then you only run it once, maybe twice with a different class, and then you don't pick the game up again. It will be worse, in my opinion. So I do think it was the correct play to develop an end game. Now the question becomes, did they did it the right way? Was it too rushed? Did they took the correct decisions regarding that end game they dropped? That is the real question in here, right? It was a good idea to release the game with recycled mechanics from PoE1, but the execution was bad. We can say that for sure. And brother, there are better mechanics, but I think they didn't release other mechanics because these were the easier one to implement, right? But the Abyssal mechanic was easy to implement. The Legion was easy, but Legion is even more Sunsumi. What other mechanics were there? The Abyssal mechanic is basically the Wisp. It is basically the same shit as the Wisp. What else is there? The Temple, the Incursions was too much work. The Delph was too much work. Betrayal, too much work. Heist, too much work. So when you look at that, so what simple mechanics can you translate? Ritual is perfect. Delirium is perfect. Expedition is perfect. Breach is perfect. That is why they decided to go with those, because those are easy to get into the game fast.
Like, why are we recycling League mechanics, like, instantly from the get-go? I mean, at the very least, the base game, we should be using mechanics that don't even exist in PoE1 to help give it the new feeling. It would help players not automatically compare PoE1 with PoE2. It doesn't help GGG's case when they are trying to get people to feel like they are playing a different game when they just throw in the exact same League mechanics in the same game.
Now, although I do agree with this, it would have been better to have new mechanics. I would agree with that. And the comparisons come, and that is true. And it is even exacerbated by the fact that when you come to PoE2, they don't explain the mechanics to you. They assume you know what Delirium is. They assume you know what Expedition is, Breach, and Ritual, because it is in PoE1. So they are assuming that you are a PoE1 player. So since I didn't know what any of this was, I had to go to YouTube for someone to explain to me what each of these mechanics are, which in my opinion is stupid as fuck. You have to put this inside the game, GG. Now, the other thing is that I also understand why GG did it, and it is what I told you earlier. And the whole thing that we are discussing in here is that they weren't even planning to do an endgame so early in development. They were focusing on campaign, but then they pivoted and they said we have to do an endgame because people destroyed before for not having an endgame. People destroyed Last Epoch for not having an endgame. We have to give people an endgame because if not, they are going to destroy the game and it is going to follow us around forever. It is going to haunt us forever. So the decision to have somewhat of an endgame was a good decision. But then if you are going to develop an endgame as fast as you can, you don't have time to develop new mechanics. You don't have time to develop the new mechanics. And they decided to go the easy path, which was copy-pasting mechanics. I have to think that is the case, and it was not because they outright said the idea is to just copy mechanics from the start. I want to think it is not like that. Plus, there are some mechanics in PoE1 that I like so much that I would want them to be in PoE2. For example, Delph. I would look for Delph or something similar to Delph to be in PoE2. In my opinion, they will adjust the mechanics. Also, those are not recycled mechanics. Those are proven to work mechanics that people liked. All they need to do is slow and adjust. I kind of agree with that. Like, my problem is specifically with these two, with Breach and Delirium. I am fine. I love Ritual. I think Ritual is awesome. That is my favorite one of the four. And Expedition is cool. The two that I don't like is Breach and Delirium because they are time-based, and I don't like that. Bring settlers to PoE2 now, lol. Yes. But again, Ace, of course, they can be adjusted and improved for PoE2. But that is my question. What are they going to do that? Are they going to leave them as they are? Are they going to remove them? What are they going to do? What was the Was their plan all along to release these leaks, or they just released them because they needed an endgame? And their plan was to release something else. I don't know. We don't know. We will probably never know. I have to work, but let me just say this. With the way they did it, we have hundreds of hours in game without maybe exactly. I agree 100% with that take, Ace. That is also what I think. So I basically agree with everything you say, brother. Yes, I agree with that. Like, what, the campaign, maybe 1-2 characters and gone? No, brother. Now we have like the Arbiter of Ash and the Simulacrum and the bullshit, and you have stuff to do. That is what I think, at least. Maybe it is not as polished as it should be. Maybe it is not in the best state as it should be. Maybe it is taking away attention from the main game. From the, well, main game, no, the end game is main game. From the campaign and from developing classes and skills, you could say that it took development time away from those things. But the end game is really important, dude. Like, we wouldn't be so hooked on PoE2 right now if it didn't have an end game. In my opinion. Because you get bored out quickly.
It's not very smart. I really wonder what would have happened if GGG did not actually add the endgame and just had the campaign. What do you guys think would have happened with the reception of the game? Even after the whole D4 thing.
I think they would have gotten backlash and they made the right decision. Of course, it is a nice thought experiment to think how it would be. Like, maybe they could have released the 6 acts. Maybe they could have released more classes. Like, yes, you get into the mindset of what are you trading for what, right? But I still think that the endgame was a correct decision. Because people, the retention the game had, we saw the graph. The first season had an insane retention 3 months after the league started. It was because there was an endgame. If you didn't have an endgame, that reception, that retention wouldn't have been like that, in my opinion.
Do you think it would have been better or worse?
Worse.
If there was no endgame? Which probably
Definitely
means the
worse.
campaign would have been even better and more polished than it was.
Yes. Yes, but
They would have got shit on so much harder. You really think so? Here's the issue. Here's the thing that I think the devs totally were blindsided by. So it went down like this. The developers had this plan. They were going to release an early access for the campaign. They were supposedly going to release all 6 acts, I think, or at least 4 acts out of 6. And there was going to be no endgame. At least nothing even remotely meaningful. Like, nothing even close to what we have now. Upon D4 getting absolutely shellacked for its early access, but its actual regular game release. I think it was, right? It was regular game release.
yes, in the actual early access, D4 was awesome. That you only had access to one part of Act 1, not even the full Act 1, and or the full Act 1, I don't remember. But a big part of Act 1 or full Act 1, and you could only level up to level 25. At that point, D4 was awesome. Everybody thought D4 was going to be great. I was addicted to D4 at that point, and I was waiting for the game to be released. But when the game released, yes, the campaign was great. But after the campaign, there was no endgame, and it was bullshit. So GG saw that, and they saw if we release a game that is only campaign, and there is nothing to do after the campaign, we are going to get backlash. And the backlash is fine and dandy right now. But the problem is that once you have that, like that brand, you are brand forever, and people are going to keep thinking about that point in time where your game had no endgame and the game sucks for them forever, you know? So to avoid that, they said we are going to release an endgame and we are going to avoid this. And I think it played out well because the game had a lot of retention. Yes, the end result was a mediocre campaign and a mediocre endgame. None of them were complete because they were driving time away from the other one, and that is true. We can't deny that. But at the same time, the alternative, which was just a polished campaign, in my opinion, would have been worse for them. GG did the right thing and added endgame into early access. They just missed the mark too far for overtuning the game. Campaign feels bare bones and doesn't have much to do with it except bossing. Yes, that is why I tell it. I am saying that it was like under the two things are undercooked because of the necessity of developing them at the same time. So the campaign is undercooked and the endgame is undercooked. But still, I think it was the right choice.
Its endgame was sorely lacking. GGG took notice of that, and they said, this could be a big problem if we show off this early access for our franchise, which is extremely well known for having a stellar endgame. We have an image to keep up. So we should probably completely alter our plans and make an endgame as fast as we can, even if it's kind of shit tier.
Yes, that is what they said.
Is it allowed... It forced them into a situation where there was no way they could make a fully good released endgame, and it allowed all the PoE1 veterans to judge the endgame through the most ruthless eyes, through taking 12 years of, or whatever it is, 10 to 12 years of all the time and care and development of the PoE1 endgame, and just put it right up next to this, and then judge it as fiercely as you can imagine.
What he's saying is true, and I do agree. I do agree because I have said this before. You can't compare the endgame in PoE2 to the endgame in PoE1. It is unfair. It is unfair comparing the endgame in a newly released early access game to a 10 years of development game. But you as a developer, you know this is going to happen. You know the people are going to judge your game no matter what. So at this point, you judge, you decide the lesser of two evils, right? You say there are two scenarios. I don't develop the endgame and I drop the game only campaign without endgame, and I get judged because of having no endgame. Or I drop the game with an endgame, even if it is scoffed, but at least I have an endgame. And people get mad because of that. People are going to get mad in both cases. So you need to choose the lesser of two evils. Someone would say, delay the game and drop it full campaign and a better developed endgame. But that will take 2 more years and we wouldn't have PoE2 right now, right? Maybe that was the better decision yet. I don't know. But let's go with they needed to drop the game when they dropped it. Between these two scenarios, which one is the lesser of two evils? I believe the one they did is the lesser of two evils. Because having at least an endgame provided them with player retention, with something to do after the campaign. It gave you something. The other scenario maybe will garner you better critics, better reviews in terms of, yes, for an early access game, it is only the campaign. The campaign is awesome. But that is that. You create a big boss week 1 and then nobody cares about the game for 6 months until you have an end game, right? So between those two evils, I believe they make the right choice. I believe so.
And they got wrecked for it in that process. I think they would have been better off just having nothing. Because then at least the PoE1 veterans would be stuck saying, well, we don't know what the end game's going to be like, but it's GGG. I trust them. They'll be good. It'll be good. But now everyone's like talking about how crap the game is because they can judge it based on people. And I think it's unwise and unfair to judge PoE2's endgame based on PoE1's endgame. That in of itself is the brain rot speaking. But GG did them no favors. They should have known that that's how people would react. It was a little bit of a lose-lose situation, but I think it would have been a much lesser.
What I said, it was a lose-lose situation. What I said, it was choosing between the lesser of two evils. And we don't know. This is very difficult to judge because we don't know what would have happened in the other scenario. Like, we can speculate and we can say it would happen like this, it would happen like that. But we don't know, and we don't have a time machine or a separate reality portal dimension to go and see to the other reality where they decided to go full campaign, right? But I think the game will have lower sales. It will have lower retention. It will have bringing less money, less attention if it didn't have an end game. That is what I think. And they will have still gotten flagged for not having an end game. So you have to decide. You get flagged for not having an end game or for having an incomplete end game. You decide, right? They went with the second one, and I think it was a correct decision. Although I do understand what he's saying, and yes, it has definitely brought in a lot of negative reviews because of the scuffed endgame, right? Which, in my opinion, it is still better than the endgame in the other games. Like, yes, if you compare it with PoE1, it is bullshit, but compare it with it 4, it is insanely cool, dude. People expect more from GGG, and that's a double-edged sword. Exactly, that is also true. People have a higher standard for GGG. If it was another company, they wouldn't be as harsh. I think PoE1 players, since they are used to having a great game and a great company, they were expecting that same standard of developing a game. And hey, brother, not all the time it can be like that, right? I actually believe that we have PoE1 in part because the community is keeping the GGG to it and not letting shit just go unnoticed. Yes, the community is pushing hard, which it can be good and it can be bad. Like, you can see everything from the two sides. But I think that the hardness of the criticism that they got in the release of 0.2 turned out to be a good thing. Yes, it was overblown, but at the same time, it pushed them to do more changes faster, which has been great for the game. So this bad thing that was the overblown community outrage turned out to be a good thing because they are making fast, good changes. Awesome. But that is my point. It wasn't overblown. It was exactly what was needed to make a change, I believe. It has been like that for 10 years, and that is why we have PoE1, is my point. Yes, I get you, and I think you are correct. But we also saw some videos where people, and comments on Reddit or whatever, where people said some outlandish shit, like they took it personal to Jonathan, and that is when I say that it is overblown. Like, you can criticize the game and complain it, but then they criticize Jonathan as a person. That is overblown, dude. That is not necessary, in my opinion.
Loss. We got a Asmurian spirit. Got him. Regal orb. Wow. I would not have enjoyed this game as much if they had not released Endgame.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
But I mean, again, it's early access, so
I agree with the person that said that, by the way. The retention would have been lower. I don't think I would have transformed my whole channel into PoE2 if it didn't have an end game. There is not enough things to talk about to have a whole channel talking about, with daily videos, talking about PoE if it doesn't have an end game. So I agree with what the dude said. I also understand the perspective Snu has, by the way. And he has said a lot of true stuff. But that is the thing. It is the lesser of two evil, two different worlds. We don't know what would have happened in the other scenario. It is a trade-off. Like, no scenario was perfect. And we don't know what would have happened in the other scenario. We can speculate, but not know for sure. We only know for sure what happened in this reality.
I would buy into that argument a lot more if it was like the full release of a game.
But that is the thing. People don't look at it that way, dude. People don't look at it that way. Because how many times have you heard people say, don't give me the early access bullshit because I don't care if it is an early access. It sucks. I am judging it for what it is. People will have still judge it either way. They wouldn't say, oh, it is early access, so it doesn't matter. Because right now, when we say it is early access, so it doesn't matter, they answer us with that bullshit. So they will have answered us with that bullshit either way. So again, it is a trade-off, the lesser of two evils. And I think that this one was the lesser one.
Okay, I see you. One tier away from the top accuracy. Damn. This could have been a great Amazon helmet for VS, but it's still pretty good. Pretty good in the making. Could still be good. I also, for the life of me, I mean, I can understand it because of corporate greed or whatever, but aside from that, I cannot understand the logic behind GGG has a golden goose of a financial. People throw money at this company. They don't even have to demand it. At any point, they have to demand it. Business model, yeah, I think I was thinking business model. Financial model, financial business model. It's a golden goose of a financial business model. And they just cashed that in on a one-time early access. All that goodwill, all that moral high ground they have. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Now, this is a different topic that it is hard to argue against this one, guys, because it's true. Like, if the game released without an endgame, yes, people would say it's boring, people would drop the game, but the goodwill bank that we saw yesterday that Chris Wilson referred about will be almost intact. But now they drain the well from the goodwill. Well, it would have been drained either way if they still delayed PoE1. Because the drain of the goodwill is not so much about PoE2 not having a good endgame, but the PoE1 league being delayed by almost 1 fucking year. That is where the most impact came from, in my opinion. So they will still get a hit from that, but maybe it will be a lesser hit. Or maybe if they didn't get an endgame, they will have more time to spend on PoE1 and the delay wouldn't be as big. I don't know. Again, another fucking universe, right? But this one is harder to argue against for sure, because it is true that they are taking a hit in goodwill, but they also got a big bank in the release of PoE2. So I don't know. This is a hard one. Dude.
That, like, because now people can say, I think I said this earlier, it's one thing to say they're wasting my time. It's another thing to say you're wasting my money. I spent so many times I saw the comment, I can't believe I spent $30 on this garbage, you know. So it has much more impact.
People say that all the time about Diablo 4.
It's so bizarre to me to have a free-to-play game, charge for an early access, and then make it free-to-play again. And again, you lose so much goodwill. Like, you probably would have made more money in the long run if you just didn't charge. Because of the golden goose that it is.
But so selling did made a bunch of money, dude. A bunch of money.
More pressure for them to succeed for the shareholder. Well, there's more pressure for them to succeed for the players now when they charge them $30 now, isn't it? Like, how much of a boss move is it, like, for the market gold standard to be, you know, $70 for a AAA game, $50 for early access to the AAA game, and then you come along here with a better game and you don't charge anything ever, yet you make even more money. That is such a boss move, man. Like,
but you can argue, and this is something that people say to me in the comments a lot, and they are kind of right, that they are not charging for the game but for the early access. The game is free, but you are paying for the early access, and on top of that, they are giving you 300 coins. So basically, you are paying for the currency, and then as a gratitude, they are giving you access to the early access, right? So I still think it is a good way of monetizing the game. Would I be happier if it was free? Of course, free is always better. But still, I think it among the ways I have seen people monetizing early access, this is one of the best ones.
Everybody wins. The shareholders win, the players win, the company wins. Everybody wins. $30 isn't that bad. No, I know, but you're giving.
When the game is free, it is going to have more players because there is no barrier of entry. We know this, right? But because yes, people say $30 is not that bad. But for example, PoE is a game that is played in a lot of poor countries where $30 is a lot of money. Here in Colombia, $30 is money, dude. So a lot of people from here would play it, and in Venezuela too, $30 is a lot of money. People would play it if it was free. So when the game is free, there are a lot of people that are going to play the game that are not playing it right now because they don't want to pay. And they will play it once it is free. I have friends that think like that. But at the same time, it is early access. They didn't want the floodgates to open because it is more of a pain in the ass. They wanted to have a closed beta that you have to pay to get into. Hey, I am fine with that too. But I understand the argument of the barrier of entry by paying. It makes it that not that many people play it. That is true. That is absolutely true. For the game as it is very cheap. I mean, look at Blizzard charging $40 for a bullshit DLC. Yes, that is true. And brother, don't tell me that you don't get more than 30 hours of entertainment from PoE2 because you do. So the $30 are definitely worth it. For sure they are.
People the chance to say what they're going to say. They wasted my money. In the reviews, they can write that straight into the reviews. The level of vitriol that ever so, expands throughout the landscape, the community, that contributes to all the hate and the boiling of the pot gets boiled much faster, and things just come out much worse for it. I think it comes back to EA means so many different things, so many different people.
Yes, that is also true.
Yeah, the GGG apparently means finished product, because that's how they kind of pawned it off.
EA has said that they are treating it like it is already launched, and that is one of the problems, because if EA is treating it as it is already launched, then players are also going to treat it as it is already launched. That is a problem. That is one of the problems. You need to treat it more like what it is, early access, and then players are going to treat it as early access too. But I think that at this point it is too fucking late, dude. But in here there are two separate things in the video. One was it better to release the endgame or no endgame? In my opinion, was the right choice to have somewhat of an endgame. But both options were bad, basically. You were choosing the lesser of two evils. Maybe the correct one was delaying and doing both things. And the other is going free to play from the start or charging the $30. I would prefer the free to play because more people would play it, and for me too, I wouldn't have to pay the $30, although I had the luck of being gifted the key, which was awesome. But I wouldn't have to be in the situation of having to be gifted the key if it was free, right? But I also think that the $30 is not that big of a deal. They are basically charging you for the early access, not for the game. In terms of game monetization, it is not bad if you compare it with other companies. And it brought in a lot of money that I think they are going to invest into the game at least a little bit. But what he was talking about in there is also true. Different companies have different interpretation for early access. Is early access a glorified beta? It is a closed beta. Is it an open beta? Is it just the game is ready but you access it 3 days early? Or the game is ready and you access it 2 years earlier? What is truly early access? The game development space has to come up to a consensus and define what is alpha, what is beta, what is early access, what is anticipated access, and all these terms that they throw around, so that the players have a good understanding where they stand when they spend money on the game. But I also think, and this is not necessarily, but the game space as a whole, they want to obfuscate things so you spend the money. Because if everything is crystal clear, maybe you have less of a chance to spend the money. This is especially true in gacha games, and I think the game is doing good enough as it is, dude. Like, yes, I think at this point we are over analyzing, and I am guilty of this because I want to create content for the game, and I am putting out one video every single day. If you want to keep the content coming, you have to over analyze it. So at this point we are over analyzing the game, but I do think the game is in a good spot. GG is in a good spot. Maybe I am on complete copium and hopium, But I think the game is good. I think the game is going to get better. I still believe in GGG, even though people are not believing. I think 326 is going to make PoE1 players happy, and then they won't bash as much on PoE2. If 326 are good and 0.3 is good, everything will be Gucci happy. Everyone will be on the rainbow and unicorns and all that shit, dude. I have faith, dude. I am optimistic. And this was a great video from Snu as always. Like, this is the second video I react to him, and it was awesome. It always prompts us to talk about cool shit. So thank you very much, Snu, my dude, for this awesome video, brother. What do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I a clown? Am I a genius? Let me know everything in the comments below. I love reading comments even when they don't agree with me. Also remember to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, all that cool stuff. Guys, thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. God bless ya. And remember, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride.